You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
Yeah, about that, I think that's what the Rings of Power producers want you to believe. But please, don't do it, not even one bit. Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This time again we are talking about the Rings of Power because they have filled us with lots of information in these past 2 months that they didn't do since February and even before. But anyways, the situation here is that Total Film released an interview with showrunner Patrick McKay, who is telling everyone that the Rings of Power is not really going to be political at all, and that fans that are worried that the show might have some modern day politics or modern day worldviews, well, they are just overreacting. None of that is going to happen. And we have this information thanks to Games Radar, since this interview was published in their physical version of the magazine. So thanks to Games Radar, that for once did something well, something nice, we have this interview now. Let's check it out. McKay told Total Film, quote, "This was one of Tolkien's debate points with C.S. Lewis, his friend and colleague. It was very important that what he was creating was not an allegory. He was not commenting on historical events of his time or another time. He was not trying to transmit a message that spoke to contemporary politics. He wanted to create a mythos that was timeless and would be applicable. That was his word. Applicable. The applicability across times." End quote. We shall see whether that is true or not for this show, but the interview continues, quote, "Every single choice we've made at every turn of making this show has been to be faithful to that aspiration, because that's what we want as viewers. We don't want to adapt the material in a way that might feel dated. We aspire to being timeless. That's why these books still speak to people so much, because so much of what's in them has not aged a day, and we aspire to do the same thing. And I think we feel that once people see the show and see what the stories and characters and words are in context, they'll feel the same way." End quote. Let's begin with the obvious thing here. They claim that they want these stories to be timeless. Now, if it is a visual medium, an audio-visual medium more like, then the first thing that they have to concern themselves with is how the visuals really play out with the rest of the thing, with the whole, this story, right? If you pay attention to the material, promotional material that we have at both Vanity Fair, Entertainment Weekly, those are not timeless things that you see there in the pictures. Let's take a look at these outfits that you see here in this image that was shared, I think, by Entertainment Weekly. If you pay attention, they look rather generic, and that's one of the complaints from the fandom, that these things look like interchangeable outfits for any other fantasy that we have currently or in recent times, mainly Game of Thrones. Pay attention to these outfits and tell me with a straight face that they don't look like anything that could be placed in any modern Game of Thrones adaptation. Tell me that this doesn't come from Game of Thrones. If I showed you this picture with no context, if we had not been told that this picture is from the Rings of Power, I promise you that you would have thought that it was Game of Thrones or some other thing like that. Look at how idiotic sometimes the physics are with Galadriel piling up this mount of helmets. Tell me that it doesn't look ridiculous and will look dated later on. Look at their use of lighting and tell me that it won't look cheesy in a few years' time, please. Look at their hairstyles and tell me that they won't be looking ridiculous in a few years' time because they look a little bit dated as well. Pay attention to the use of grading, the use of color mainly, and tell me that it won't be looking like crap in a few years' time, that it won't look dated in a few years' time. Look at the real Slim Shady here and tell me that it won't look dated and rather ridiculous with that hairstyle in a period of time that is supposed to have not really that much to have that sort of almost buzz cut, you know? And tell me that it won't look ridiculous in a few years' time, maybe even in a couple of months or something like that. I mean, it's really something that doesn't shout, "This is a timeless piece." And I know and understand that you can make period pieces like The Godfather and they will look timeless. This is not the case with this thing. This thing looks, in its use of lighting, in its use of wardrobe and all other things, dated. And it will be in a couple of years. Now, the other reason that we can't believe this, and the reason that this is all a lie, and I believe we can call it part of the damage control that they have tried to carry out, is what we had early this year, in February more specifically, with the Vanity Fair article that was supposed to be the first look at the Rings of Power, that also had a series of interviews with the showrunners and the producers, and one executive producer called Lindsay Weber, who told Vanity Fair, quote, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like." She even elaborated by saying something like this, quote, "Tolkien is for everyone. His stories are about his fictional races doing their best work when they leave the isolation of their own cultures and come together." If you pay attention to what she has said, it sounds like this is not something that you can expect will respect Tolkien and will actually go out of its way to even, dare I say it, contradict what Tolkien wrote. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are trying to save face, but they are forgetting that the executive producer is on top of them, you know. That person comes first. And of course, if the executive producer said it, they have to put it into the show. So, what they are trying to do here, in my opinion, and remember that this is only what I believe here, is some damage control considering what the backlash has been like for them. Look at how Tarmiriel and Galadriel are working together in the trailer. They meet for the first time, and I don't think I am the first one in indicating or stating that this sounds like agency for women, you know, women working together to try to be better than men because men are useless pieces of crap. If you really pay attention, the show and the showrunners, producers and everyone involved, they don't know and certainly don't seem to care about what Tolkien really is about. Look at what director Wayne Yip said about what, in his opinion, Tolkien is all about, and of course also the show. He said, quote, "Tonally, we wanted Rings of Power to reflect Tolkien's main story points of friendship and good and evil. One of the ideas is, how far into the darkness are you willing to go to do the right thing?" End quote. Clearly, this person doesn't know what Tolkien is all about, because in Tolkien's writings, you never, ever see people go to great lengths to achieve their goals. In fact, one of Tolkien's main points is that the means don't justify the ends, or the other way around, the ends don't justify the means. I mean, the thing here is that what they are doing is wrong. That sentiment is quite anti-Christian, and for anyone that knows Tolkien, he was a profoundly religious person. He was a deep Catholic, one of those true Catholics that tried to follow the book, and he wouldn't have allowed something like this to happen. Now, finally, if you pay attention to what some members of the cast said, especially those like Sofia Nomvete or Ismael Cruz Cordoba, these people mention how diversity is at the core of this show, how important it is that the conversation is shifting, and in turn also the Rings of Power is shifting with that conversation, how important this is for accessibility. We talked about this in a different video, and that doesn't sound like something that is not going to be politically charged with what modern day sensitivities are trying to dictate. So if you pay attention, these attempts from McKay just reek of despair, trying not to go with the backlash that they have received, trying to swim against that and trying to dispel all these fears from the fandom. These remarks, the only thing that they do, instead of inspiring me with confidence, they make me feel and make me think that there is a disaster going on with this show and that the people behind it are afraid. Because they are afraid, that doesn't inspire any confidence at all. But also because they are afraid, they are doing whatever they can to try and spin it so that they have a positive publicity or positive marketing or positive word of mouth, whatever. But if you ask me also, I reckon that it's a little bit too late for that because they showed their hand too very early on. And thanks to that, the fandom also grew wary and warier, and also they wised up to what they were up to. But also we have to say that the Tolkien fandom is a tad bit more intelligent, let's say, or more knowledgeable, so it cannot be fooled that easily. If you really are one of those and you care about Tolkien, I recommend that you not give this the time of day, do not even pay attention to it, and instead enjoy a good Tolkien book. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you watch, please like, share and subscribe. Don't forget to leave your comments and I will see you next time.